When the 47th President of the United States, Donald Trump, proposed territorial claims against Panama, Canada, and Greenland, many perceived it as an unfortunate joke. Moreover, even my subscribers, many of whom are intelligent and well-educated people, who can think rationally, have seriously stated that Donald Trump's desire to annex new territories to the United States is a bluff and an informational move to fuel interest in his persona from U.S. citizens and world leaders. However, starting in 2016, throughout my journalistic and expert work on YouTube, I may have disagreed with my esteemed subscribers for the first time. The fact is that starting in November 2024, Donald Trump began to form and designate the real contours of the so-called Anglo-Saxon macro-region. The fact is that, against the backdrop of the decline of the unipolar world and the loss of the hegemonic status by the United States, the main task for Donald Trump is to create this macro-region that will allow the West to retain at least the remnants of its influence and provide worthy competition to the countries of the global South, led by Russia and China. My dear truth seekers, you must understand that, unlike Biden, Donald Trump is not a globalist. The newly elected President of the United States is more of a shareholder than a globalist who sees nothing wrong with the approach of a multipolar world. Let me remind you that when Joe Biden withdrew his candidacy from the election race, Donald Trump met with the most powerful and influential shareholders and formed an alliance with them. Now, Donald Trump and these shareholders are united by one common goal. At the same time, you should understand that, unlike globalists, shareholders are more pragmatic and will stop at nothing to achieve their goals. It is this factor that can become the main reason for the destabilization of the situation in all key regions of the world, including the Arctic. By the way, strengthening the U.S. position in the Arctic region is perhaps Donald Trump's most important task. The fact is that the Trump administration is not going to give Russia rich in natural resources the Arctic region without a fight, especially against the backdrop of the rapidly changing geopolitical situation in the world. The fact that Donald Trump is seriously considering annexation of Greenland and Canada to the United States, as well as taking control of the Panama Canal, indicates that Washington is carefully preparing for a confrontation with Russia in the Arctic, which has rightfully become the world's most important region in the 21st century. Moreover, the United States has also begun to strengthen its military bases in Alaska. In addition, Washington has begun pouring unprecedented sums of money to form new combat formations in Alaska. And the most interesting thing is that as of January 11, 2025, the process of militarization of Alaska continues to grow rapidly. For the first time in more than 50 years, the U.S. Army has formed a new combat formation based on the 11th Airborne Division, and this division will serve in Alaska as the Arctic Angels, specializing in operations in extreme cold weather and high-altitude mountainous terrain. My friends, in this video, I will tell you what the Americans are preparing for, and how it is connected with the plans to strike at Russia. The recently declassified Pentagon plan called for a strike on the USSR through the North Pole. The Air Armada, consisting of strategic bombers Boeing B-52 Stratofortress and long-range fighters F-101, was supposed to cut through the weak defenses of the Soviet Union in the north, like a knife through butter, and deal a crushing blow. At that time, given the weakness of the USSR's air defense in the Arctic, such a plan had certain chances of success. However, today we live in different conditions. The emergence of a unified Northern Fleet Command in 2014 marked dynamic progress. For 8 years, Russia has acquired the largest Arctic military bases, powerful early warning and tracking stations, and a network of mainland and island airfields. Moreover, the 1st and 3rd Air Defense Divisions of the 45th Air Force and Air Defense Army are now equipped with the latest modifications of the S-300 anti-aircraft missile systems and S-400 systems. NATO, seeing the success of Russia in this direction, tried to catch up with the help of reducing the flight time. By agreement with Norway, the Americans have already received at their disposal the air bases and airfields of Sola, Rig, Evans, and Ramsund Naval Base. And now the Pentagon is strengthening its positions in Alaska too. In 2020, the Pentagon revised the Arctic strategy and became increasingly concerned with the creation of additional bases for ships and submarines, and the construction of 3 heavy icebreakers by 2027. A key element in parrying Russia's actions was the deployment of the so-called task force in Alaska. Its most important asset is multiple rocket launchers, long-range precision-guided missiles, and, in the future, hypersonic weapons. And now, for the first time in more than 50 years, the Pentagon has formed a new combat formation based on the 11th Airborne Division of up to 12,000 troops. To breathe life into the new combat formation, it was decided to transfer 2 brigades from the Hawaiian 25th Infantry Division to its composition, while the 1st Brigade of the 11th Airborne Division would lose its combat vehicle Stryker infantry and become a helicopter unit for effective maneuvering in extremely cold weather conditions. Russia has already begun to respond to such U.S. actions. The reconstruction of the military airfield in Anadyr made it possible to receive the entire range of combat aircraft. Now strategic missile carriers Tu-22M3 and Tu-160 regularly appear there. Also, MiG-31BM interceptor fighters and attack drones began to carry out combat duty there. And the new Coastal Defense Division deployed in Chukotka has become an important link in the unified coastal defense system from Primorai to the Kola Peninsula. It controls the section of the coast along the northern sea route to Wrangel Island, and has all the means in the arsenal for anti-sabotage work and repelling the amphibious assault. My friends, in the mass consciousness of the people, the Arctic is not yet perceived as a likely arena of hostilities. However, judging by what is happening now, the military command of Russia and the United States considers the possibility of the outbreak of hostilities in the Arctic not just probable, but inevitable. Well, my dear truth seekers, as you can see, the United States vitally needs the territories of Greenland and Canada to effectively counter Russian forces in the Arctic. In addition, the United States also wants to establish full control over the Panama Canal in order to reduce the negative effects on its economy from the Arctic Northern Sea route. Thus, against the backdrop of the approaching multipolar world, Donald Trump wants to create a powerful core of the Anglo-Saxon macro-region, where Europe is destined to become a vassal and puppet, while Australia, Japan, and South Korea will become the strongholds of the United States in Oceania and Southeast Asia. Of course, Washington's ambitious goals will inevitably cause a clash with such superpowers as Russia and China. Well, my friends, I hope now you understand why Vladimir Putin did not want Trump's rise to power, and openly said that Joe Biden's re-election, or Kamala Harris' appointment to this post, would be the best option for Russia. I am sure that for the next 4 years, Vladimir Putin will try to avoid a clash with the United States, and prevent the outbreak of a major war because of Donald Trump's actions. The fact is that Donald Trump has only 4 years to achieve his goals. And this is a very short time to achieve such ambitious goals. In addition, Donald Trump is currently in old age, and therefore, most likely, he will not be able to be re-elected for a second term. Given the fact that the United States has never been a country with a permanent foreign policy course, it is safe to say that in 2030, the new US president will abandon all the goals that were outlined by the Trump administration. And this factor will undoubtedly be another victory for the patient and prudent Vladimir Putin, not only in Europe, but also in the Arctic region.